From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons LA with incredible great news about your forced stimulus check update of 2021 today. In this recording, we'll go over that forced stimulus check and why you're likely to get more months of checks from those Democrats. Then we go over the deal. It's confirmed Americans will be getting over $3.5 trillion of checks in the forced stimulus package. Checks for all different walks of life, seniors, medicine, and workers. I'll be going over some of these checks in this recording. Then we have the vote. A major vote is set for next week. Yes, finally a vote is set. But if the vote doesn't pass, is there a backup plan? Yes, there is. For the first time on Afternoons LA, you're going to see this deal of a backup plan. It's really fascinating, and it's breaking on this Afternoons LA program. Then we cut to fifth stimulus, which raise your benefits up lifetime. And as the shocking unemployment claims came out this morning, what does this mean about fifth stimulus? We're raising your benefits up for SSI, SSDI, and VA. I have the breaking news as well. And then we turn to the big money across the board that viewers continue to get, like Nisi, who got $23,000, that Louis got $18,000, and that John got $12,000. It's a big day. It's a big afternoon. There's a lot of money at hand, and we're going to get it on Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? Hope the weather is good where you are. It got hot again here in LA. Oh, it got hot again here in Santa Monica. Why? It was supposed to cool down and didn't stay cool very long. So let's just hope it sort of reverses itself. Jump in the live chat and tell me where you're tuning in from. And how's the weather? So much breaking news. There's an enormous amount of breaking news in this recording. So stay with me to the final 15 or the final 14 at the end. We'll be going over the forced stimulus check first, those monthly stimulus checks, why you're likely to get more months of checks. Then we'll be going to the recon. $3.5 trillion of checks are coming to the American people. Congratulations. You're on tap to get $3.5 trillion of checks. It's now confirmed. I'll go over some of those checks and what you're getting paid for. Every walk of life will be likely getting a check of some sort. And then we go over the voting. We have a date set. Yes, a date is set next week for a vote. It's a critical vote. But there's news of a backup plan. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is very exciting. And you're going to hear this for the first time on Afternoons LA. Then we turn to fifth stimulus. As it raises up your benefits if you're on SSI, SSDI, this is what was promised to you on the campaign trail by the president, including my veterans, yes. But there was a high jump in the new unemployment claims this morning. So what does that mean about this? Does it impact it? I'll explain that latest detail. And then we turn to the big money across the board that viewers like Nisi got $23,000, John got $12,000, Louis got $18,000. I'll explain how you can get this big money as well. It's your money to get, and this is LALATE, America's only 24-hour day, 7 days a week financial news channel in the morning, live in the morning, taped in the afternoons. Coming up next is Evenings LA, then Sirloin. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record in 1 year. I want you part of this family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, too. 3,000 likes. Every like helps. Don't forget to like the video. And consider becoming a member. Well, here we go. Exciting details about this forced stimulus check, as more checks are likely to come from those House Democrats. It was 3 weeks ago that we wondered if the pandemic was perhaps maybe not over. 2 weeks ago when we realized the pandemic is not over. 1 week ago when we realized the pandemic is definitely not over. And then this week when we realized the pandemic is absolutely categorically not over. The number of Delta cases in California alone, actually LA County, has risen 80% in just a few days. It's out of control. Florida out of control, especially among young adults. House bill, pandemic plus 1 year monthly stimulus check, Senate proposal July to December. House bill from Jalopal, $1,000 a month after the first month of 2000. Senate amount unknown, but word on the street is the Senate Democrats would pay you this. Deliciousness. $2,000 over 6 months, $12,000, or $1,400 over 6 months, $8,400. But now, with all indications solidified that the pandemic is not over, there is all indications that the House bill would be the play. Pandemic plus 1 year, a monthly stimulus check, which would amount to more than just 12 checks, more than 1 year. It would amount to pandemic plus 1 year. That would be more than 12 checks, which would be more than $13,000 from the House. Compare that to this from the Senate. I think you have an opinion. I think you have an opinion. Jump in the live chat right now and vote House of Senate, House of Senate. Tell me where you're tuning in from and how's the weather. $13,000, a lot more than that from the House compared to this from the Senate. Boy, who gets a forced stimulus check? Democrats represent, you do. Single individuals, $75,000 less, Democrats represent, you're going to get a forced stimulus check. In fact, they represent that if you got a third, you're getting a fourth. Marry a couple, $150,000 less, Democrats represent, you get a forced stimulus check. Double it. A family of four, Democrats represent, you get a forced stimulus check. Quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, VA, you're getting a forced stimulus check, and all my other beneficiaries. The forced stimulus check is not income, it's not taxable. The forced stimulus check will be the same amount for everyone, including adult dependents. Yes, you would get one as well. And then the forced stimulus check is not a waivable check. And even I fell for that. Can you imagine? It's a monthly check. I fell for it. I was at the beach last Sunday, recording on the beach, live streaming with the cell phone. And a viewer said, "Hey, LA." No joke. This is actually the exchange. "Hey, LA, is there a check behind you? Wave at the check. I see the check at the beach." So I turned, I'm like, where? Oh, there's a check. "Hey, check, how are you? It's LA. How's you doing? Happy Sunday." Checked and waved back. Rude check. Viewer said, "It's not a rude check, LA. It's just not a waivable check. I've seen your videos." The forced stimulus check would come in the month of July for the month of July. Those Democrats represent, and in the month of August for the month of August. But in the second part of this video, we have the confirmation. Deal done. You're getting checks, $3.5 trillion of them. The forced stimulus recon is now confirmed and approved on two fronts: the price tag and that it's getting done. The $3.5 trillion is confirmed in the recon, forced stimulus recon. So in addition to the issue of stimulus checks, you will be getting also $3.5 trillion of checks. I'll be going over some of those checks. It's for every walk of life. And then in the third part of this video, we go over the exciting details about the vote next week. This is the final 15 of the final 14. The final 15 minutes of this video will go over the final 14 days, potentially, of the forced stimulus battleground. And now, there's a vote set. Yes, there's a vote set. OMG. But there's also now a backup plan. You're hearing this for the first time in this recording. That's coming up in the final 15 of the final 14. But first, here's a preview of this stimulus. It raises your benefits up if you're on SSI, SSDI, and VA, as promised by the president during the campaign trail, finally. But what happened with the unemployment numbers this morning? They were horrible. Does that impact this? I'll explain all the details. It's coming up in a little bit. But first, let's get some money. And you have been killing it. If you've gotten rent from this channel, utilities, SNAP, or anything like that, jump in the live chat and post it right now. I was recording videos on this channel that said for third stimulus, I can get you about $5,000 a month, $5,000 overall for rent, about 4 to 6 months of rent. You're getting $20,000, like Nisi. Congratulations, Nisi. And then when I said for utilities, I can get you $300. You're getting $3,000. I think we've had about 12 people get it so far. And then when we talk about SNAP, I said $5,000 to $6,000. Viewers were getting it, but I guess I can get you $5,000 to $6,000. Now John got $10,000 to $12,000, and Louis got $18,000 48 hours ago. You are killing it. I'm so proud of it. You're supposed to rent, utility, SNAP, or internet. You've gotten in the live chat right now. This is what I do. This is what we do. On this channel, it was launched in spring of last year because people's EIDL loans and grants were not coming. You see, on this channel, we cash checks. We don't track checks. There was no check to track with EIDL. It wasn't coming. So we cashed them. $25 million of them on this channel. An internet record. There's no place even close to it in magnitude. And then in fall of 2020, people's bills were not getting paid. They couldn't pay the bills. And second stimulus wasn't coming. It wasn't passed yet. So there was no check to track. So we started cashing checks. $250,000 of them for rent, like Tyrone, who got $15,000 for his family of four out of Boston. Incredible. But now You're doing it even bigger and bolder than ever before. So let's go over all this big pot of money. You're going to reach out to different places. We're going after rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and homeowners utilities. Each place has different eligibility. So if one says no, reach out to the next. They'll say yes. And they also have their own pots of money. Are you ready? You're going to reach out to 6 places. Here we go. Get that pen and paper ready. And if it must be blue, it's a Crayola crown, and it's certainly not muddled, and it's certainly not from KC. Sorry, Canute. Here we go. You're going to reach out to your city hall, your city housing authority, your county hall, your county housing authority, your state hall, your state housing authority. The keywords you say are rent assistance because of COVID, or mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Viewers tell me those are keywords really make the big difference for them. You do not say words they don't know, like stimulus, or range of options at the Teal Monsters Princess Ball. They don't know that. And this is not Teal. So there you go. Congratulations to Tim and Linda who got that wonderful pot of money. The next pot of money is the money coming back from Snap. Oh my goodness. John, congratulations, my friend. He got $10,000 to $12,000 for his family for Snap because of this channel. And then Louie, big hug. He got $18,000 this week because of this channel for Snap. What is Snap? Is money for food. How do you get it? Department of Agriculture. Who has else gotten it? Lynn Glenn has gotten it for herself, her son, and her mom, a viewer of this channel, and also Gail. How much does it pay? A fortune. Family of four in Hawaii gets upwards of $16,000 a year. Wow, why so much money? Because of 2 wonderful executive orders. One from Biden, one from Trump that raise your benefits up 15% between now and December. So go get it. You're killing it. We're killing it. $15,000, $16,000 for Snap for family of 4 out of Hawaii. $5,000, but more than that for rent. And we are only 11 minutes into this video. We got more money right now, and it's coming back from your state. States have been ordered to return money back to you due to overpayment of unemployment benefits due to computer error. It's coming by direct deposit. How do you track a call up your state and say, hey, state, can you track that check due to computer error? And can you track it with a computer that actually works this time? Here's my iPod. And then finally, the wonderful refund check from IRS for that payment on that 2020 return of unemployment. Margaret got it, Cog got it, Michael have gotten it, and others viewers have gotten it as well, but there's still some checks coming. And the breaking news from IRS is the following. There's wave after wave coming. The average amount for the latest wave this week is $1,265. Wow, that's a lot. Direct deposit started July 14th. Paper checks started July 16th. And there'll be a new wave coming back from IRS every week. So if you're on the beach and you see the IRS, no, we're not doing that, Joe. How do you track it? How are the details? First, let's say you had $9,000 of unemployment benefits. You paid $5,000 of taxes, of which $4,000 was your taxes on unemployment benefits. Congratulations, you came back $4,000. Where? Direct deposit, otherwise in the mail. When? This month. Can you track it? Yeah. Go to irs.gov and do a transcript search. 70% of the time it works. It'll reveal the tax return you filed, the taxes you paid. It'll reveal stuff you never knew, stuff you didn't want to know. It'll reveal when Mitch appeared on Star Search and sung that song in tribute to Chuck, was the song Slave to You by Britney? And finally, it'll reveal the tax return refund check you're getting. Can we top that? We can. Deal. The fourth stimulus package is a done deal for purposes of the price tag and its passage. The Senate Democrats have confirmed it will be $3.5 trillion of checks coming to the American people. Yes, whether we include the discussion of stimulus checks or not in this sentence, you're also getting $3.5 trillion of other checks for stimulus. Yes, these $3.5 trillion of checks for the American people include all walks of life, including you. This massive deal was effectuated by taking roads and bridges recon out for stimulus and making it now passable. Now, I want you to hear that carefully because later in this video, I'm going to say something a little bit different and it may get confusing. So remember, initially, the recon had roads and bridges in there. It was not passable, so they took roads and bridges out and shrunk it and made it passable. And it now has passed for the price tag, and the functionality has not voted on the actual bill yet. We had the confirmation from conservative publication op-ed recently that said by taking the roads and bridges out, it made it passable. The higher the price tag was on the recon before, the harder it was to pass. confirmation. But by allowing the Democrats to take out some of the spending from the recon and put in the bipartisan roads and bridges, the overall price tag of the recon got smaller, obviously. In other words, the bipartisan deal made the recon passable. Sorry to set you up, Mitch. Now, Mitch is not having a problem with this because the Republicans love the infrastructure. Mitch is doing something else. I'll try to cover that at the end of this video if there's time. It's not much of anything, but it's not this. It's something else. Well, the fact that it was shrunk, then finally the progressives were able to increase it to a price tag that they want, and they did it. Done. Deal. $3.5 trillion of checks are coming to you. Congratulations. Now, we have that confirmation of celebration going into the comments before the vote, before the agreement. Representative Ilhan Omar said, we have to have a recon that goes as big as we want it. Well, you got it, Elon. Congratulations, $3.5 trillion. And Representative Richie Torres, Democrat of New York, said, I refuse to vote for any bill unless it's linked to a larger recon. You got it, Richie. $3.5 trillion. The Progressive Caucus was meeting with the White House daily to ensure that the recon was big enough. They got it. Congratulations, $3.5 trillion. Senator Brian Schatz and Jalapal, both out of Democrats out of Hawaii and Washington, had confirmed that they were able to do this because they were protecting the recon. Why protect the recon? As Schatz says, everything that's in the recon is progressive priorities. And the quote, the White House considers the progressive priorities in the recon its priorities. Wow. Now let's go over what this recon is. Recon stands for reconciliation. It's a bill. There's a recon substantive and a recon procedural. I'm just going to go over the substance because who cares about the procedure? The recon substantive bill, it also stands for reconciliation. Before we go to the details of it, let's go over some names. Let's just go over some basic words so we know what things are. Recon, your money. Bipartisan, not your money, roads and bridges. So we have two words that I use on this channel, recon and bipartisan. Those are the two most prevalent words to use to refer to these two items. But what am I doing here now? I want to go over other words that sort of float around on broadcast media. In case you hear those other words, you recognize which one is which. Because remember, we have two paths. You have to keep them separate in your mind. Recon is also called reconciliation. It's also called the budget bill, price tag $3.5 trillion. People quoted in an article about it would be a Bernie Sanders type person. Bipartisan, not your money. That's roads and bridges, also called infrastructure. Price tag smaller, $1.5 trillion. People quoting an article about that, Ron Portman, Kristen Sinema, or Mitt Romney. Okay, that's pretty easy. All right, let's go to what a recon is. A reconciliation is a bill written by Democrats for Democrats to be passed by Democrats. Here's an example of why that sentence is so important. On Overnight's Crypto last night, someone jumped in the comments and said they called up Susan Collins to ask them, how many stimulus checks am I getting? I thought it was a prank comment because I thought it's so insanely ridiculous. Why would you call up the most Republican of Republican senators and say, hi, how many stimulus checks am I getting in the recon you're not doing for me? She's not doing the recon. She's a Republican. She has nothing to do with the recon. Why would you call up Susan Collins and ask her? It's like, why would you call up Nancy Pelosi, ask her, how much lobster sauce do you have for Mitch's Lobster Fest? I mean, you wouldn't do that. So the recon is written by Democrats for Democrats to be passed by Democrats. Susan Collins has nothing to do with it. And who writes it? It's written in subcommittees. Those subcommittees are in the House as the lead authors. And the Senate subcommittees look over their shoulders and help them along the way because they're the same party. Under the Constitution, subcommittees of the House are delegated different subject matters for writing bills. House Ways and Means, subcommittee of the House, responsible for stimulus checks, responsible for unemployment benefits. When each subcommittee is done with their writing, let's say it's 10 pages and 10 subcommittees, they combine them and send them up to Chuck. And if we start on Chuck's side, he combines those 10 of 10, which is 100 pages, and puts a big S on it. Not for Schumer, it's for Senate. And there's your Senate bill. There is your recon. At that point, you see the recon. Now, before that happens, you don't see what's going on. Under the Constitution, there's no requirement that those subcommittees show you what they're writing, what they're not writing, what they're taking out, what they're putting in, what they're voting in favor, or what they're voting against. There's no requirement. That's why broadcast media and myself agree upon one very simple thing, which is that when you look at the situation and you understand the situation, you say, we haven't seen the recon because the Democrats won't show us. We haven't seen the recon because the Democrats won't show us. Just like a pop singer who has an upcoming album, they don't want to show you all the tracks on the album or let you hear them before the album comes out. It wants to be a big media event. So we haven't seen the recon. That is why, if you see someone jump in the comments and say, I haven't heard of this in the recon. Well, guess what? No one has seen the recon. That's why you haven't heard it. But there you go. How do we get to this wonderful spot? We got to this wonderful spot from Jalapal, who had Richard Schumer a letter who said, Chuck, call the vote on the recon. The letter was signed by 12 House Democrats who were among 100 plus who had written the president a letter saying, we're going to be putting monthly stimulus checks to the fourth stimulus package. Wow, that's a lot. It is a lot. 100 people is just enormous. And then 7 members of the House Ways and Means Committee topped that. Yes, the same committee you were just talking about. Yep, the House Ways and Means Subcommittee. 7 members of it wrote the president a letter recently saying, we're putting monthly fourth stimulus checks in the fourth stimulus package. Remember, that's the subcommittee that does it. Wow. We got to keep them to that promise, Purple Power. We have to keep those people to their promises. They wrote your third stimulus check recon, and they represent their right of fifth stimulus check recon. Wow, can we top that? We can. As the president has got it done for purposes of the pay-fors. The international corporate tax rate minimum was signed overseas 4 weeks ago. It's now about 5 weeks in a ceremonial signature, just ceremonial. The actual signature happened this week. And that's huge because now it makes it easy, breezy to pass for stimulus recon. Why? The international corporate tax rate minimum is a tongue twister. And the reason why it's a tongue twister is it's confusing. And it makes it wonderfully, wonderfully easy now that it is part of international law on the books that they don't have to put it in the fourth stimulus recon. Why? Number one, easier to write the recon because they don't have this confusing thing in there. Easier to call the vote on the recon because you don't have this confusing thing in there. Easier to vote on the recon because you don't have this confusing thing in there. And easier to pass the recon because this darn confusing thing ain't in there. Wow, can we top that? We can. The final 15 or the final 14 of this video coming up in just a second, these final 15 minutes of the final 14 days of the recon process are astronomically elaborate. The next 15 minutes will be one of the most elaborate 15 minutes you have ever heard. You're going to hear breaking news stuff that you're hearing for the first time today in this recording. It's going to go left, it's going to go right, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. So get ready to sort of sit back and digest all this because there's a lot, and I'm going to make it as simple as I can because it is very complicated. And then we turn to fifth stimulus with the raising up of your benefits, but the unemployment numbers, folks, today were horrible. So what does that mean for my raise in my benefits of fifth stimulus, and could it impact fourth stimulus? That's coming up in a second. But something more wonderful than that, the volunteers. If you're having problems finding rent, utilities, or internet, reach out to the volunteers. Now, there's a reason why I ask in the live chat to post your success stories. When you post your success stories for rent or utilities or internet or SNAP, 3 things happen that are wonderful. 1, it inspires someone else to get it if they have not tried to get it. Number 2, it inspires people to get multiple items, like Art Sullivan, who has gotten 3 items for this channel. If you got 1, then you realize, wait a second, I'll get other ones as well. Number 3, it updates us about the monies. And 4, it's a very wonderful community in which there's always someone that says, I can't find something in Michigan, I can't find something in Georgia. Someone says, I'm in Georgia, I got it. That's the wonderful interactiveness of people helping people. So if you've had problems finding it, don't worry. I got your back. The volunteers, I got your back. Reach out to the community page. Where is it? Open the description of this video. Go down the description. You'll find a emoji of a house. Click that link. It sends you to news.la.com/community. There's a picture of some kitty cats lower on the page of the volunteers. Reach out to them. They'll help you get that rent, that utilities, that internet, and SNAP. Here's a little bit about them, and I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals, reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. home. LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now on Afternoons LALATE as a big evening afternoon comes upon us. Boy, what a day it is. And I'm very excited for you. The final 15 of the final 14 today, folks, is just enormous. It's going to be an enormous final 15 minutes. Sit back because it is elaborate, and I'm going to make it as simple as I can. And then we go over fifth stimulus, which raises your benefits up, and all that exciting details is coming up as well. But first, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this family. Hit that subscribe button. Also, like this video. 3,000 likes. Every like helps, and consider becoming a member. Thank you. Yesterday I added an extra Afternoons LA show at 1 o'clock. Because afternoons, as you know, is always at 3 o'clock. I added an extra show at 1 o'clock, a throwback show. You loved it. So if you do like an extra show in that 1 o'clock time slot, I'll put one there. Because I know it's a long run from 11 to 4 for programming. All right, let's get to fifth stimulus. Because the President of the United States promised this to you. He did not deliver. And then finally, the Senate and House Democrats stepped up and said, wait a second. He promised this to our seniors. We're going to take care of it in fifth stimulus. Fifth stimulus is this fall. This is money that would land in your bank account around November or December. And this is just incredible. I mean, this is what was promised you on the campaign trail. They're going to raise your benefit limits up, then remove the asset limit, and add an inflationary benchmark, remove the marriage penalty, and remove the income exclusion. Let's go over the details of this and the breaking news. First, number one, who gets this? You do. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits. Veterans, yes. SSA, multiple beneficiaries. What is the first thing they're going to do? They're first going to raise your benefits up one big time, a big jump, a lifetime under fifth stimulus. And that would likely, get impacted around like a November-ish check, I think is what they're thinking, because that's when the vote would happen. Then they would apply the benchmark. Now, sometimes the benchmarks are done earlier in the fall, but because this would go to a vote then, I think the benchmark would likely be applied in December. The benchmark would be new. You've always had a benchmark, but this benchmark would be different. It would be inflation. How high is inflation going? Well, Jay Powell, your head of the Federal Reserve, testified on Capitol Hill last week and the month before the same way, saying that inflation is going transitory, going to a spike, going to a temporary peak in December. This is huge because that's when they apply your benchmark. Wow. Then he says it's going to dropped back down to where it normally is at like 1 to 2%. Wonderful. So how does this impact us? And is the unemployment numbers released this morning going to impact this as well? No. You see a lot of strange economic indicators in a given week. This week, we saw the 10-year Treasury note going up and down. Then this morning, the new jobless claims number was released. Horrible. It's going up. It's a second week or third week in a row going up. These are people who were employed all throughout last year, all this year, and suddenly they're losing their jobs. It's just horrible. But does that impact the inflation rate? Not directly, because inflation is cost of goods sold, milk, eggs, gasoline. So there's no particular direct correlation between how many people are unemployed and how much gasoline costs, or how much the interest rates are, which is growth, and how much milk costs. This is sort of its own universe, inflation, which is price of goods sold. So first they'll raise your benefits up, then they'll apply the benchmark. But how high? Most of Wall Street and myself think that the inflation rate's about 5%. Wow, that's great news. So if it's 5%, your benefits will step up 5%. Not just next year, lifetime. Because once your benefits step up, they never step down. Then the asset cap will go away. You'll be able to have more than $3,000 in hand. Then they'll remove the income cap. You'll be able to work if you wish. And finally, the marriage penalty is going to go away. Love is going to win, and you'll be able to marry your longtime love interest. You'll no longer fear loss of benefits and no longer penalized by the marriage penalty. And finally, if you are in the live chat and you notice a lot of people who are Purple Hawk emoji users, that they have a beautiful hawk next to their name, how do they get that? They're members. It's important to become a member because as a member, you notice these people have big sums of achievements for rent and utilities that they're getting. How are they doing it? Daily, I deliver to you a breakdown of all the big money under third stimulus for you to get. It's application based, not automatic. You want to get that big sum of money. That's why you see people like Nisa getting 23,000 or Louis getting 18,000 or John getting $12,000. They've learned from the videos and from the delivery of the information I send them from the YouTube page daily, handwritten by me. When second stimulus was passed, was $600 stimulus check, I said, I'm going to get you $6,000. But I got Tyrone $15,000. When third stimulus passed, I said, I'm going to get you $1,400. I'm going to get you more than a $1,400 stimulus check. I'll get you $14,000. You see now I'm getting viewers nearly double that amount. So there you go. And with that, let's turn to the final 15 of the final 14, right on time with final 15 minutes of what's anticipated for the final 14 days of this fourth stimulus battleground. We're going to go recon, then we're going to go to bipartisan, then we're going to go back to recon, and then we're going to go back to bipartisan again, because there's a lot happening. First, recon, done deal. We have a done deal. $3.5 trillion of checks will be going to the American people under this fourth stimulus recon. The Democratic senators met and made an agreement that there is a price tag and there is a passage of the recon. All they have to do is vote on the actual bill. This is huge, as Senator Tim Kaine confirms, because all you have to do is just slot the price numbers into the different items. With $3.5 trillion, checks are all you're getting. There's nothing in that $3.5 trillion but checks and checks and more checks for the American people. Number two, the price tag is huge because as Bernie Sanders says, this is the most historic day he has ever seen in the U.S. government. For him to say that, that means it's wonderful. He went into the meetings asking for $7 trillion, but agreed upon $3.5 trillion, which ironically is exactly half, because he said he can do the same items for just less time. So it's likely that he looked at a program and said, we'll do it for 5 years instead of 10 years. Just wonderful. And all the progressives, all the moderate Democrats, everyone's ecstatic that all this money is coming to you. Early in this video, I went over with you that you're not going to see the recon until it's actually delivered. But we have had some leakage. That's a horrible term. We've had some leaking of the details of what's in the fifth stimulus. And here you go. Here is some of them. This is not all of them. Checks, checks, and more checks. Checks for free school meals for all. Checks for tax breaks. Checks for cheaper prescription medication for everyone. Checks for immigration reforms. Checks for farmers. Checks for elections. Checks for free internet. They're going to give fortunes to local cities to ensure you have free internet. Wow. And then comes the money for my seniors and my workers. Checks for energy, and then checks for workers. Checks for independent contractors. Checks for unions. Checks for collective bargaining. Checks for seniors, checks for Medicare expansion, checks for eligibility of Medicare, checks for dental, checks for vision, checks for hearing. That's a lot of checks. There we go. That is just some of them. You're getting a lot of checks, 3.5 trillion of them. And guess what? I ain't going anywhere. I'm going to ensure you get every penny of them, just like how I'm ensuring you're getting all these checks under third stimulus. This is how we do it, because third stimulus had a $14 stimulus check, but you saw how I've been dedicated to ensure you get this $5, $10, $15, $20,000 on the third stimulus as well. We're going to be doing the same thing under fourth stimulus. All right, let's turn now to the bipartisan. The bipartisan with roads and bridges or infrastructure. Well, last Thursday, they met and they said they could agree upon the deal items of what's in the bipartisan pretty quickly. They worked over the weekend. On Wednesday, Chuck Schumer called a vote. The vote was the following. I've explained it before, but let me explain it again slowly for anyone who's new to this channel. The vote was to end discussion and negotiations on the infrastructure within the next few days. Not a vote on the bill, but to end chatter about the bill in the next few days. I said going to the vote was going to not pass. I said it was going to fail because no one likes to be told to zip it, and it did fail. But it worked. Why did it work? Because the purpose of it was to put fire underneath the feet of the bipartisan group and get it done. Here was the magic that unfolded right after the vote failed. Real magic from people who never usually deliver us magic. Ron Portman, more about him in a second, delivered a letter right after the vote to end discussion failed, delivered a letter to Chuck Schumer confirming that he has 11 Republican senators ready to vote in favor of the bipartisan, and that the Republicans confirm that the bipartisan will be ready for a vote this coming week. Oh my goodness. Now, if you weren't with me earlier this week, I told you that Mitt Romney last week said that this week the vote would happen. I said, I don't think it's happening this week. Broadcast media said, I don't think it's happening this week. Again, the vote on the bipartisan. I said it's happening next week. And that's what broadcast media said as well. Well, those 11 Republicans signing a letter with Ron Portman confirm the vote on the bipartisan will be ready next week. Yes. Now, why is this huge news? This is huge news because remember, recon, your money, has to go for a vote. Bipartisan, their roads and bridges, has to call for a vote. But there's enough Democrats who have said you cannot have the recon only go for a vote and throw the bipartisan by the wayside. You have to have the recon go for a vote before it or close in time to it. So if the bipartisan is going for a vote next week, as Ron Portman confirms, the recon could go for a vote this week, and if not, certainly next week. Wow, we are literally within 7 days of finish line. Yes. All right. Meantime, here is an interesting wrinkle, which makes this even a little bit more elaborate. So I just explained to you that the Republicans for the bipartisan group represent they are ready to pass the bipartisan next week by vote. This is them. They're saying they're done. Well, here's what I also have to tell you on the other side of the spectrum. Before I tell it to you, I want to tell you where the story comes from, which makes this even a little bit more bizarre. I told you this is going to be a mind-blowing Final 15. A conservative publication that I usually look to for some reporting is good in that it sometimes gives quotes, but horrible in that everything is always slanted negative Democrat. So I have to always preface stuff for you. It's negative Democrat. It's negative here. It's negative there. Well, this article was negative GOP, so it doesn't make sense. Why would a conservative publication be negative GOP? But I want to just preface you where this information is coming from. It's coming from a site that is usually slanted in all its coverage. So the article they published today said that the Democrats, while they see Ron Portman and those 11 Republicans saying they're ready for the final vote next week and they put it in writing, the Democrats are about to call chicken on it. Some Democrats think it is a setup and that the Republicans are really not ready, and that the Democrats are citing instances from 10 years ago where this has happened before, where Republicans said that they were ready, they weren't ready, and they ran out the clock, and by running out the clock, they set the Democrats up, and the Democrats never got anything done. So the Democrats reportedly have that back in their brain cell and do not want to be set up by having the Republicans potentially run out the clock on them. And so what are So that is first. It's a very slanted article, you can already see. It does have some quotes. It does have some quotes that actually say people are worried about this. Jalapal saying, "You're not going to run out my clock." She's actually quoted saying something like that. "You're not going to run out my clock next week." So yeah, I'll give you to next week to call the vote, but you're not going to run out my clock. So what are the Democrats ready to do as Plan B? Okay, now this is where you got to sit back, because this one is where it gets very complicated. Plan B is to take the $3.5 trillion of recon that is only checks for you, and drum roll, add the roads and bridges back in. Really? Really? We've been doing this since June 20th, where you said you couldn't do it with the roads and bridges in there. You took them out. Then you say, now that we took it out, it's passable. Now you say, well, if we can't get it passed by the bipartisan, I'm going to put the roads and bridges back in, and now it is passable. Needless to say, the author of the article did not have a lot of people to ask opinions of, or senators, whether they would support putting the roads and bridges back in. My question is, why? Why would you put the roads and bridges back in? We've already seen enough thousands of recordings on this channel about why those roads and bridges in there, when I do the hand gestures like that, and I do this hand gestures like this, and I do the hand. Yeah, when it was like this, no one wanted it. And now it's like this, everyone loves it. And it's 3.5 trillion. It's checks for us and checks for us. And we don't care about those dark roads and bridges. They can crumble till September. We'll be back in September. I mean, if we're on lockdown, we're not going to be taking the road and bridge. Now we have to put the roads and bridges back in and blow it back up. Okay, let me just basically say this following, is that it's not confirmed that Plan B is really Plan B, number one. There's no confirmation that they're really going to do that, number two. Number three, Chuck and Nancy have always said they're never going to do that. So why would they add the road and bridges back in if we've gone through 2 months of this where roads and bridges in there don't work? So my personal opinion, if you're asking my personal opinion, the reason why they took the roads and bridges out was there were certain Democrats that said it shouldn't be in the recon. The recon is too big. So I don't think those people are going to change their opinion if you try to put it back in there. They're going to say they don't belong in there. But on the other hand, here's some really good news. And that's why I told you this is hyper confusing, but I'm trying to make it easy for you. There's another article that says Chuck Schumer met with all his Democrats, including those problem ones. And apparently the problem ones are fine on just doing the recon vote if the bipartisan is getting a little bit delayed, because they at this point think that they did all the efforts they can do for the bipartisan. They have done everything they can for the roads and bridges. And if the roads and bridges just doesn't get done this week and gets delayed, then they are on point, according to this other article, after Chuck Schumer met with them, to pass the recon by itself. Thank goodness. So why am I going through all that detail? Because while the bipartisan group says that they're going to call the vote on the bipartisan next week and get it done, the Democrats reportedly are ready to call the vote on just the recon if the bipartisan group doesn't get it done. And yet other conservative publications are saying, no, the Democrats want to add the money back into the recon. There are quotes from Bernie Sanders that says, hey, maybe we'll put the roads and bridges back in there. I don't think that's a good idea, Bernie. So fascinating, really fascinating. I have most faith in Mitt Romney when I'm talking about bipartisan, because I've never seen Mitt Romney say something that's not true when talking about dates and votes and things like that. Whatever he says is he's just very clear to the point. And so Mitt Romney says it's getting done. It's getting done. Ron Portman, on the other hand, is the antithesis. I don't like Ron Portman. I don't think you like Ron Portman. Ron Portman is that guy that in summer of last year said, cut off everyone's unemployment benefits. You're lazy, get back to work in the middle of the pandemic. So why would I trust anything from Ron Portman now? I wouldn't. So I will wait to see Mitt Romney's quotes on the calling the vote. Remember, Mitt Romney said the vote would be this week, if not next week. I think if Mitt Romney says it's ready next week, I think it's ready. And there we go. So watch for Mitt's comments. Finally, Mitch is doing something all out on left field. I'm not going to go over it because we're running out of time. It's unimportant. It's about as unimportant as the sauce at the Lobster Fest. And with that, have a beautiful afternoon. I'm next back with you with Evenings at LALATE, and then Sir Floyd at 8 o'clock. If you liked that double dose of Afternoons at LALATE yesterday, jump in the live chat and say, yeah, I liked an extra Afternoons at LALATE at 1 o'clock in addition to the show at 3 o'clock. And subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, YouTube record. Next top 1 million. Like this video too, 3,000 likes. And consider becoming a member. I'll have a lot more details on Evenings at LA coming up at 5 o'clock. Coming up next is Overnight's Crypto. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.